this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Now today I've got something really cool to show you, and I haven't found one of these for a while. But over the years, since I started my channel, I've found many examples like this or similar creatures on the ground. Skulls, bones, remains, sometimes freeze-dried and fossilized, sometimes just fossilized, sometimes kind of caked in mud and clay and then hardened like a sort of mud fossil. This is a good example, and the reason this is a good example is because it's taken by the Perseverance rover, which has better quality images than the old Curiosity rover. And this is the set I've done. Now, this is incomplete, this Gigapan. There's a couple of images missing, but I'm hoping they'll turn up later today or tomorrow, and I'll replace this with a full version of this Gigapan here. But luckily, the ones that are missing are at the bottom, so it's not a big deal. And there's still plenty to look at in this image. It's insane. There's loads of weird things that look like fossilized skulls and remains of creatures. What we're looking at is a riverbed, and you can actually see the flow lines on the ground coming from this side slightly diagonally this way from the top down. And on this edge, you follow this edge down, we've got some sharp pointy rocks kind of sticking up, and right in the middle of them here, there's a big rock here, but in the middle, right in the middle, we have this thing. Now, initially I thought, oh, that's weird. And then I looked again and I thought, hang on a minute. This seems to be a dinosaur skull, fossilized. And when you zoom in, let's go right in close, you can actually see there's a snout here, there's a jaw here, lower mandible here, there's the mandible, there's an eye here, and then we have this armoured plate at the back, like you get on some dinosaurs on Earth. Now it's not that clear, so ideally you need to take a clip of this and darken it a little bit and add a bit more contrast to it. But the detail is there, and the eye is there's even eye detail just there, you can see the eye. And if you look really carefully, you can actually see teeth here or sharp parts along the jaw which match up at bottom and top. So this is not a rock. If you have a row of teeth like this with a jaw, and we have the actual nose here is very pronounced and goes up in a sort of almost like a horn, but not quite. Big nostrils. When you have rows of teeth, then you're not looking at a rock, you're looking at a fossil, okay? Or at least a petrified remains or fossilized remains of some kind of creature, and that's what this is. There's the eye, just there. You can actually see eye detail and eyelid detail there, right? So you've got that little crease below the eye there. And you can see the teeth here. They're not very clear, but if you darken this, these will stand out better. You can see the teeth. They're not long, sharp teeth. They're quite small. It's almost like a beak, this thing has. And we've got points at the front which look like teeth as well. Okay, it's like a serrated kind of beak almost on this thing. Now, let me show you the clips I've got before I show the other stuff, because there's some other things in this area which are really strange and pretty crazy, right? But I've got some clips here, and I've done some larger, some smaller, and I've got raw clips as well to prove that I haven't altered the image in any way apart from colorizing it, okay? Now, let's start with this one. This was the first one I did. You've got the raw clip in the corner at the top here on the right. And this is the enhanced one. It's a bit bright, but the detail's pretty good, right? You can see that eye there. You can see the nostrils, the jaw with the teeth here. But it's a bit too bright. This is closer. This is the same one, just cropped. So you can see it a bit bigger, right? Now this one's darker. This is much better. This is the last one I did, and this has more contrast in it, so you can actually see the details a bit better. So you got more of a black sort of shadow here, and that accentuates the detail a bit more. So the eye looks darker, and the detail stands out more. Okay, And it's very similar. It's not the same, but it's similar to a Protoceratops from Earth, with an armoured frill at the back here, behind the head, and a similar kind of morphology to that. It's not the same, of course, because this is Mars and this is Earth, but it's that kind of thing. Now, there are many types of these on Earth. Some of them were quite large, like the Triceratops, of course, the famous one with the three horns. They were quite huge. They were sort of elephant size, some of them. Some of these Protoceratops on Earth were actually quite small. They were about the size of a sort of large pig or wild boar. About 6 foot long or something like that when fully grown. So they sort of roamed the forest. Basically, what we have here is a fossil, and I'm pretty certain this is. And I've got another one here. This has got the rule clip in it as well. There's the rule clip in the bottom corner here. Now, nearby is this thing. Now, this is the rule clip. It doesn't look much because these images have been kind of bleached out. The Perseverance mass cam images are very yellow. They've got a yellow filter added for some reason, which bleaches everything out, and there's hardly any shadow. So in order to see stuff properly, you have to enhance the colour or colour correct them, right? And what you do, I'll show you how I do that, right? Now, this is the raw clip, completely raw. It's just been enlarged, clipped, cropped out and enlarged, okay? So you need to sharpen it as well. What I'll do, I'll actually show you how I edit these, right? Now, gamma minus, you go down to about 44 or 45 normally. A little bit of contrast, like 5. But then you add blue up to about 37 or 8 or 39, something like that. It varies from image to image because these will go very pink if you just darken them, because there's so much red and yellow in the image. They go a sort of horrible pink colour. So I drop the red out a bit as well, right? And then turn the brightness up until it looks about right, like that. Sometimes I'll go darker. Now, this is a foot with an ankle and part of the leg here. And the rest of the leg is buried. Why do I think this is a foot? Because you can actually see that there's toe bones here. This is the big toe, and there's a row of toes next to it. It's not very clear. Now, if I go really dark, you will see the detail more. I'll turn the contrast up. Right, there we are. Let's turn the brightness up a bit. Like that, right? Now I'll desaturate it, because it will get very red otherwise. There we are. Now you can see we have a big toe with the toe bones behind it and a row of toes next to it. It's not very clear. It's kind of a bit eroded and it's sort of fossilized, and this may have been covered in sand until fairly recently. This is why it's in reasonably good condition. It's not completely eroded away, but it may be very old indeed. But the thing is, this is right near that dinosaur. Well, there's the dinosaur skull there, which is right above this bit here. Okay, so we're over to the right of the image, near the centre right, okay? Now if you go down to the bottom right, we've got this weird ovoid rock here, which may in fact be a skull or cranium, but it's kind of looking away from us, so we can't really tell, but it may be. But right next to that, then we have the foot. Now, if I go back a bit and use the magnifier, you can actually see that toe? And another one, and another one. The others are a bit blurred out. This is encrusted and eroded and stuff, but you can actually see the toe bones in formation here in a foot. And there's the part of the leg, and it's buried in the sand next to this skull-shaped thing here, which may in fact be a skull. It seems to have an eye here. Now, what you have to bear in mind is we're looking at the surface of Mars, and some of the skulls, as I've shown before, are very alien. Some of them look kind of humanoid, some of them look ape-like, some of them are very reptilian, but a lot of them are very odd indeed, and they don't really fall into any of those categories. They look kind of, they look kind of reptilian, or even fish-like, or even sort of amphibian-like. Some of them, they're very, very strange. Some of the creatures they had here, right? Now, some of them may be marine creatures, some of them may have been upright walking, humanoid types as well. I've shown examples of all types of those. But this may be a skull, but I'll show you a clip of that in a minute. I'm not really sure about that. Here's the enhanced clip here at the bottom that I've put in here. I'm going to redo this. When these images turn up here, I'm going to replace them, put them in here, and then repost it up, and then link it below for you, right? But you're going to find loads of crazy stuff in here. And the Protoceratops is the most clear and the largest thing, but there seems to be a skull here. This is the clearest one. There are lots of weird things in the area right along this riverbed here. A lot of these things do look like fossils in the ground here. And of course, if this is a riverbed, which it is, that is the perfect place for fossilization to happen. Because what happens when clay dries out, it hardens, and anything left in there will be encrusted in clay, which then hardens and then fossilizes. But as I've said, on Mars, not always in the same way as on Earth, because of course it's very, very cold, and a lot of things just freeze dry. They die in the cold. They maybe stay out too late in the evening when the temperature drops right down. You're talking to like minus 80 or something when the sun goes down. And if you're caught out in that, you're going to freeze to death very rapidly. And then freeze dry. It's very, very dry. So if any creatures were still alive after the cataclysm, they would have freeze dried if they were caught out, unless they were living underground or something, like what some small rodents or even people may have done. Okay? I don't think all the creatures on Mars and all the people on Mars were wiped out by the cataclysm or nuclear war. There were survivors. I proved that by showing remains of people with breathing gear. In other words, they needed breathing apparatus to stay alive in the atmosphere after the atmosphere was changed very badly by the nuclear war on Mars. And there were probably multiple cataclysmic events over millennia as well, apart from that as well. So I've proven that, and you can see all that on my playlist. If you go to my playlist on my channel, there's like all sorts of stuff here. I mean, I've done so many playlists. There's so much evidence here. In fact, there's so much, it would take you a month just to go through these, really, probably longer, just to watch little bits of each, you know. There's so much evidence, it's ridiculous. The one that I would draw your attention to today would be this one down here. There's one somewhere down here. Here we are. Mars dinosaur skulls. There's actually 31 videos there. So I've got over 30 examples. And in some areas, there's more than one next to each other, if you know what I mean. Sometimes they're in groups. And there's even sort of petrified animals, like this thing here, which I call a meerkat. Petrified remains. I mean, there's 128 videos there, right? And some of them, as I said, contain more than one. This one's on its own here. Absolutely insane. So you've got petrified animals that are like rodents like this. You've got even things like this, the giant frog or toad. That's a Gale crater. I mean, there are loads of these things. This one's huge. This is about 14 or 16 inches long, about 1.5 feet or something like that. It's over a foot from tail to tip there. It's giant, and it was probably frozen in the mud as the atmosphere was ripped away, and just froze and then was petrified where it sat, just there. That's in a lake bed. Today we're looking at a riverbed. This playlist here, Mars dinosaur skulls and fossils, you're going to see loads of stuff like I'm showing you today here. There's also birds as well. Some of the playlists contain both, because it's hard to tell with some of them whether they're actually one or the other. Okay, there's all sorts of animals that I've shown before. It's absolutely insane, as well as things like crashed UFOs, UFOs flying around, vehicles like tanks, you know, humanoid skulls, giant skulls, even like this one. This is huge. This is about 1.5 feet It's absolutely huge, humanoid. So some of these are very large, but some of them are quite small. This thing's quite large. And it's got some pretty scary shark-like teeth on it. Okay. Insane. So there were multiple species on Mars, and they had dinosaurs. And what this tells us, we're finding a dinosaur skull here, and then a foot or leg and foot fossil here, or remains, right here, in the same strata, which means that these both died around the same sort of time in the same area and are at the same level. In other words, they're the same date, which means there were people running around at the same time these were running around, simultaneously. Okay, so we had vegetarian-like dinosaurs here, probably feeding on the foliage that was growing in this river here, which may have been quite shallow, feeding on the probably reeds and grasses and stuff like that, right? Vegetarian. You can tell it's a vegetarian by the teeth. They're not long pointed teeth like you would get on a carnivore, right? So this is a vegetarian, much like this thing, the Protoceratops from Earth, right? Herbivore. Height, 1 meter. Length, 1.5 meters. 6 foot long, 3 foot. It's about the same. The one we're looking at on Mars is a bit smaller than this, about half that size, I would say. So if that's 6 foot long, the head's probably about 1.5 feet there. The one on Mars is a bit less than that. It's probably about 10 inches or maybe 12. The weird thing is that the fossils that have been dug up with this thing from Asia come from this place here. It's called the Flaming Cliffs of Mongolia, and it looks remarkably like Jezero crater, where we're looking today, where this image was taken. This is to the northwest of Jezero crater, right? Now, Jezero crater itself was a huge lake, but there was a city in the middle of it, and around parts of the edge as well, which I've shown. Most of it's buried and ruined now. You can barely see it. It's all buried and eroded and stuff. But I have shown in the ground that there are large square and rectangular structures, loads of them, right? You can see them in my playlist. So, but this is to the northwest of that. We're about a mile or two north of that, northwest. And this is where the river flows into the lake. It's called a fluvial fan. There's a massive kind of river delta with there would have been loads of water, quite fast flowing water coming down here into the actual crater, and not necessarily very deep, but some of it may have been. And there's all these channels, right, which were where the water flowed down. You can actually see the erosion here, where the water flowed through, and there's another one here. You can see a sort of erosion channel here. See that? It goes all the way up. And there's some very weird things on the ground here. So I suggest you take a look yourself at this, because you're going to find some weird stuff. And I'm absolutely sure this is not the only fossil here. I'm just struggling to recognise some of these things. Now, a lot of them are probably just rocks, but some of these shapes, I'm just seeing like this here, for instance. You can see here, this looks like a skull or some part of a fish or some kind of weird creature that's fossilized. We have an eye there and a mouth here, and a large kind of ovoid sort of head shape. Now, is that some kind of skull, or is it some kind of fish or some kind of creature? I don't know. It might be. It's not untypical of what I've shown before. The point is there was many species which we don't know about, including all the types you can think of: fish, reptiles, amphibians, birds, humanoids, people, apes, you name it, it was there. And I've shown examples of all these things, multiple examples of all these things. They can all be seen in my playlists here. I'll put a few clips of some of the things I found in at the end of this video for you to just browse through. Then you can come to my channel playlist page here and then just flick through yourself. I mean, there's a very good example of a fossilized fish there in that video. I'm not sure if this one is, whether that's a carving or fossilized, but it's like a shark, which is insane. And there, near it, to the right, to the left, I mean, there's a fish sticking out of the rock, where it's just kind of fossilized in the rock. And you can clearly see what it is. So there were fish, there were birds, there were reptiles, there were dinosaurs, although this one seems quite small. I have shown examples of much larger dinosaurs and eggs and things that have been found, fossilized eggs, you name it, I've found it. Other people have also found these, and I've shown a lot of their finds as well, so it's not just me. Independent researchers from all over the world have been finding similar things for years now, and I've collected a lot of them here for you to see. And I always credit those people that have found these things, okay? Because they're not all my finds. Most of these are, but about 5 or 10% of them are other people's finds. But there were birds, and there's even been birds photographed flying above the rover, like this one here, which looks like a hawk. There are bird remains on the ground, like this here, or feathered dinosaurs, whatever you want to call them. Even things like trees and big carvings of like dragon-like leaders that may have ruled the part of Gale Crater, like this thing here. I mean, just insane. And it makes my brain hurt looking at some of this stuff. It really does, because there's so much of it. It's very hard to digest. So I suggest you do it in small doses if you're going to do it at all, because it's hard to digest all this stuff, and you're going to sort of gradually work your way through it. And I do openly publish everything. As soon as I find anything good or interesting, I publish it straight away. And I often spend many weeks searching without finding anything. Uh, and then suddenly you get a whole bunch together like we have today. There's a chicken there. There's a Protoceratops. Now the one on Mars has got a more of a pointed snout, very similar. It doesn't. I don't think it has a horn sticking out the side here, necessarily either. So it's not the same as this one, but it's similar in scale, a bit smaller. Okay, it'd be about this long, probably a foot or so shorter, maybe 2 foot shorter. So a bit smaller than that, if anything. But that is a pretty close comparison, I would say. Although the snout is more pronounced and pointed, right? But you can see those details in it, right? And there's the foot. Absolutely insane. Just sticking out of the sand, and there seems to be a skull near it, or something similar, like this. You can actually see an eye here. See, this may be a reptoid. And these reptoids don't have noses. They just have holes where the nose would be. Like they have these little nasal cavities here. I've shown ones before. And there seem to be pointy teeth here as well. They've got fish-like teeth, and they've got small nasal cavities, a lot of them, with big eyes, and very pronounced, elongated and bulbous craniums, like this. Everything I find seems to be similar or a bit similar to something I found before, which means they must be real. In other words, some of these skulls, I mean, this was one of the clearest. This was right up near the rover. An unknown type of animal, don't know. Struggle to actually work out what some of these are, because they're not similar to ours in any way. They look very different, but many of them do look similar enough to actually match up with species on Earth, like I've just done with this dinosaur. This is only about a foot tall. It's not very big at all. It's like a little baby bear. Now this must have been at the lakeside in Gale Crater, taking a drink when it was blast frozen, and it's just completely fossilized right there where it was. Okay, and it may have been covered in sand for ages, and then recently that blew away. You got eye detail, you got teeth here, you got the snout there, you got an arm, a leg here which is kind of broken off here or buried. Insane, right? And then we have like carved things like this. This is a carving in the rock. This is in Jezero crater, not far from where we are today. About a mile or so away from where we are today. And this is about a foot tall. A meerkat-sized carving of a little creature with a pointy snout. And there's even eye detail still there, just there. Astounding. The detail is great in some of these images. It's not so good in the ones from the Curiosity rover, unless they're really close. But, I mean, look at this. This was pretty close to the rover. This is only about 5 inches. It's like a little rodent. But it seems to be holding an arm up as if it's scratching its ear or holding a mobile phone. All I can say is I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples of things on the ground which are animal, humanoid and technical remains. But as I said, you've got to zoom back a bit with some of these things. If you go in too close, you can't see what's going on. You've got to go back, and things become tighter and more defined like this. So, plenty of evidence for past and current life on Mars. Thanks for watching. Links to all this stuff below. Check them out. I will see you soon.